Hey there. We are going to bring you the Fitjar Islands soap again. We're going to bring you this Astra Superior Platinum, the inked version again, because we are going to compare this razor. This is the Rocket HD, made in the UK from Gillette, and we're going to compare it with the Aristocrat Jr. or the 51 that we used recently, which shaves so wonderfully. So that is why we're kind of duplicating everything. Also, the purpose is to, I unsuccessfully, the last time I used this shave, was able to get it to be a little drier. I just natively kept adding too much water. And so let's try again to not get it too wet and to see what kind of creaminess may be there if we don't do that. That's my goal. It's a decent little soap, a company over in Norway. I love the cool wooden container, something about that, kind of like Mitchell's wool fat and tobacco, those fine accoutrements with those ceramic containers that they made. And D.R. Harris has cool ones also. It just kind of screams connected to history, and I don't know. It's really tough to actually nail down the exact reason why. The brush I'm using is a Silvertip from Golden Nib, and this guy has been so enjoyable. He's a 25 millimeter knot, and you might as well call him a 26, I guess. He feels great on my face. Big, comfy, luxurious, puffy, very soft, but not too floppy. Not I wouldn't say floppy at all to me. And so I'm really getting a lot of enjoyment out of this brush here lately. And this will be my maybe third or fourth shave with it. So it is. Now I have used the premium Silvertip knot before in a smaller diameter in years past. And so the knot is not a new thing to me. I've always enjoyed it, but this handle had a really stiff badger in it, and I thought, you know what, let's get rid of that because I love the handle. It's so ergonomic, it's pretty, and it just feels great in my hand. So why not put in a knot that I really enjoy? And it's a pretty budget price knot as well. All right, the premium quality of the Silvertips from the Golden Nib. So this is an HD Aristocrat, and in the little tray there in the diamond area right under the crossbar here it says patent pending. Now that dates this razor. In the text, if you're super curious, of the comment, the description of this video, it'll tell you exactly, but I believe it's 1953 or 54 were the years where they're thinking that this one would have been made if it says patent pending. There's another one that says Brit-Pat on box or something like that. That's my other one, and that's going to be a couple of years after that. So that's what we're dealing with. And here is the inked Astra Superior Platinum. It has 3 shaves on it, so we're going to put a 4th on there. Got my face wet, so we're ready to go there. Wanted to show you 3 soaps that I've recently gotten in, but I'm not going to shave with them yet because my nose is still COVID, and so I can't really smell these very well. I'm guessing right now I'm putting my nose at about 10 or 12% of its normal capacity, so I can smell things very lightly, as opposed to a few weeks ago where I wasn't getting about anything at all. These guys right here. Mountain Laurel is something from London, Kentucky, London Razors, and they did a soap, and I'm really interested in smelling this guy. The faintness I get right now is pretty nice, and I believe it said that Summer Break is the company that did the soap, so we know it's going to be a great performer there. He's in Kentucky, and I think he's somewhere near where I actually used to live in Kentucky for a short time. It's a wonderful state, I'll tell you that. Moon Soaps, old school. I have brought you an old school in the form of a sample, thanks to the generosity of another viewer out there. I think it might be Refined Shave. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that. But old school, I love Moon's artwork. Just a wonderful vintage with some vintage style with some creativity, and it's just not plain vintage. It's got a little bit of flair to it, and their performance was good. Now the scent strength on the sample, the smush that I had, wasn't really very strong, and so I'm really looking forward to trying it out full tub strength, because that really could affect things. And then one that's gotten a lot of traction here in the last month or two, Seaforth. They started with heather and spiced, and Spearhead Shaving revived the Seaforth name, which was a great name back in the day, years ago. And they bought the rights to use the Seaforth name and the formulas and all those things, and the cool icon of the, what is he? Yeah, he's a Scottish guy in a kilt with a cape and all that kind of stuff. And heather was a little too feminine for me in terms of the soap, and so I did sell my heather, but I kept my spiced. And boy, the soap base that Spearhead is using here, wonderful. One that I really enjoy, a lot of slickness, but it also still has kindness to your face with various ingredients there. And Sea Spice Lime is one that some people are really going nuts over. But I know it's a good soap base, so I figured I'd try it out. People are saying that it's not crazy. It's not something that's just going to drive you wild. It's not super creative or something weird out of left field that you didn't see coming, but it's just a wonderful combination, kind of a redo of some established bits that were just put together in exactly the right way for some people. And so I think that what they're saying is that there's a lot of lime to it, and then some of the other notes are coming in as well. Oh, I love how they list the notes on here: Tahitian lime, bergamot, sea spray, coriander, pink pepper, and oak moss. So again, a very faint smell there. I'm liking what I'm smelling. And so what it sounds like is it's mainly lime, and this is what I've heard from people as well. It's mainly lime, but there are also some grounding attributes to it to give it some interest. And so I'm looking forward to trying this guy out as well. So those will be forthcoming once my nose gets better. I pray that it does. I'm not going to take that for granted, but from what I'm hearing, odds are it probably will be okay. And from the fact that I'm feeling it get better in the past couple of weeks, a little bit at a time, that's encouraging. All right, with my face wet, and so the stubble is absorbing a little bit of water, let's kind of keep that going with a little bit more water, since I talked about those soaps. And now let's load. Let's keep the same load, 30 seconds. Like I've been telling you guys, if you use a hard soap, any soap, consecutively, you'll have, if you brush load it and you don't scoop it with a damp brush, then you're going to leave behind some water each time, and the soap will hold on to a little bit of that, and it'll be easier to pick up more soap the next day. And of course, that will stop at some point and even out, but that means that first time I used this, I had to load about 60 seconds. And now this is maybe the third time, and I'm going to try 30 seconds. The 60-second one, I also came at it with a drier brush than usual, so I don't want to do that either. So we still have some water in this guy, and so let's just do a 30-second load. 15 started right there. So we'll go to 45, medium pressure. Once you memorize your soap, once you figure out how long it is that's good for you to load, and you're consistent with how much water you have in your brush, then this stuff that foams over right away, that can be a really good indicator, because that should generally be consistent. And so if you know that generally you're going to have a little bit foaming up like that, then that's something to look for. Instead of maybe timing it on a clock, just wait until that happens. Of course, if you switch brushes or you decide to put a different amount of water in your brush, then that's gonna change the variables. Now with the wood puck here, I like to the container. I like to kind of take my wet hand and kind of clean it up, and that way these wet suds are going to be very easy to wipe off with my towel over here. Keep that wood from just from gradually accumulating kind of soap buildup on the outside of it. I don't really care if like that inside wall there has some on there. All right, so Fitjar Islands is on the docket for today, and this is Havn, a citrus woodsy type scent. So well, why did I tilt you up? I'm about to work on the lather bowl. All right, so what we're going to do this time, I used 20 seconds of water, 20 milliliters of water last time. And so this time, how about we just put in 15? That is, why don't we just go ahead and put in the 15 right now. That's probably 16, but I think that'll be good. Let's try that. Now it's very wet in there right away. See how? And so go slow if you use a bowl, because it's very easy to slosh out at this point because the consistency is like water. Now notice, look at all those bubbles. Of course, it's very hydrated because it's mostly water right now. We've got a lot of soap in the brush that hasn't combined with water yet. And now some soaps will get airy like this in the beginning, and that's okay. For a lot of them, it just means you need to keep going. And that's one of the neat things about building up a lather this way, by starting with a certain amount of water and soap, not really adding it, because you as a viewer can see the lather start to come together. And all those bubbles are gone, and look, it's more like a creamy lather now. We'll just keep working it. Sometimes I'll back off and just kind of barely let the tips go around the bottom of the lather bowl, and sometimes that lets some of the lather stay on the bottom of the bowl, and I think that helps the mixing action. Other times I press lightly. Make sure I bring the stuff down from the walls. Now, if I have a lot of water at the core of the knot, then I'll make sure that at some point I do press down and get the soap to come up and contact that water. And that way it won't flush out during the shave. Now it's looking really nice. My COVID update. I'm about to start the weekend in another day. Friday's tomorrow, and that'll be, I think, the 4th week after being exposed to COVID, and I'm feeling a lot stronger. Still kind of feel tired sometimes, especially toward the end of the day, but not nearly as bad as I did even a week ago at this point. So that's encouraging. So glad I had the vaccine. It turned it more into a flu fatigue kind of situation instead of a hospital ventilator kind of situation. All right, now let's, I was able to show you guys some really nice elastic behavior on the part of the lather the other day. Now, maybe this soap base does not like to go to that point. That's kind of my default setting. And so, yeah, we're definitely not doing that today. This is not nearly as kind of soupy and elastic and creamy looking. Now, what may happen is it's more creamy feeling. And that is, I don't want to leave this soap always having had it a little too wet. Now, this could be too dry, but at this point I would rather err on that side. And then we'll move on to the next soap in our list of, since my COVID nose means that I can't really enjoy the scents, I'm picking bases that I enjoy or have neglected, but whose scents don't really pull me very strongly back to those soaps as regularly as I might like, because we've just got so many amazing scents in our industry, right? And there are some vendors that I don't even use because they're harder to get, and so it's not like I have all the soaps from each vendor, and so even then I have way too many to have any kind of regular rotation where you're really enjoying your favorites. And that's something I'll resolve some year, if I ever do. Who knows? I may retire with all these soaps, and that's my hobby, right? We can do what we want to with our hobby. If we want to just keep that choice, then we can. But we can also, and maybe I'll do this someday down the line, narrow down our collection to our favorites. Because every time you use a mediocre soap, you're not able to use a favorite. And I've done a good job of trying a soap and then realizing that it's mediocre. A little too dry. And then putting it in my 2-cell box. And when I say mediocre, of course I mean mediocre for me. It might be amazing for somebody else. And I've even started to realize those cases where it's a good soap, where I know that I would be happy shaving with this for the rest of my life. It's a good soap. And I've gotten to where you can't even keep the good soaps. It's like you have to be picky. Get rid of even the good soaps so that you can keep the very good. See, and I added a little bit of water, and bam, it changed the whole thing, didn't it? How much did I end up adding? Just maybe 1 or 2 milliliters. That's okay. Oh, and then that's the whole thing about bowl lathering. If I've got something a little more concentrated in the bowl, I can just go back and get it. Add 2 here. Look at that. Oh, this brush continuing to feel great. Silvertip that is not floppy. Right. A little bit more growth on my face than 24 hours. And so now we're going to compare the 2 rockets. I've got my gold rocket elsewhere, but it basically looks the same as this, but it's gold, right? We have the rocket knob here that it gets higher as you open the doors here. The knob rises and it doesn't stay, this gap doesn't stay there. In a similar way, same thing over here, except as you can see, this guy's thicker. The handle is thicker. The head looks the same from the outside, but the base plate of the Aristocrat Jr. over here is that flat or solid base plate. and over here it's the diamond base plate. That's going to be the key, and that does present a big difference in the shave often. And but I think I'm not sure. This one may be a little easier to find than the Aristocrat Jr. And so it may cost just a little bit less, but it's not super cheap. But it is heavier. You can tell. It's not as long. It's a little bit shorter than the Aristocrat Jr. A little bit thicker. So let's see how the blade feel does. This guy right here, last time I shaved with it recently, and boy, it cut me so close, but it did it so smoothly. It's got the firmest hold on the blade. It felt wonderful, nice shaving motion, but even when I was shaving over areas that were very well shaven already, it didn't gather up any irritation or anything like that. Very happy with that nigh perfect exposure and the geometry. It's all just this wonderful combination that matches me really well. So let's see if this diamond base plate duplicates that well enough, or if it's just different in a better way, different in a worse way, or just different in a different way. All right, here we go. And same blade as I used with the Aristocrat Jr. Moving through the hair effortlessly. I do feel the blade a little bit. Fitjar is a soap that's not top tier. However, it's just one of those that I just happen to kind of enjoy anyway. And so every once in a while I'll bring it to the channel. I actually bought this directly from the Norwegian company. And so it did take a couple of weeks to make it my way halfway across the world. And there we go, very comfortable first pass. Like I said, moving through the hair easily, pretty comfortably. I knew the blade was there. I could feel the edge very, very lightly. And so I like that feel pretty good. And let's load up the brush. Go in again. I left a little bit of kind of standing water on my face. Maybe the lather in here, if it's still concentrated by just a little bit, then maybe that'll kind of equal everything out. Oh, the brush still feeling great. Man, that's nice. And that lather, as you saw, it wasn't very thick on that first pass, but it doesn't have to be. It just, to work, it just needs to be a thin micro layer. This has a little more exposure than the Aristocrat Jr. And so it's not quite as smooth, but you're probably not hearing very much blade chatter, you know, and so it's still quite smooth. And the Astra, the inked version of the Astra, working very well with it. I'm curious if there's any difference, I bet there's not, between this one and the Lather model that says Britpat on the packaging instead of the pending note. I'll bet they're the same exact geometries. But what I'm curious about, and I may do this, I may shave with the etched Astra, the Lather version that has been laser etched instead of inked. That's why I keep saying inked, so we can tell the difference. Because that one seems to be a little harsher of a blade. And knowing the nice comfort that I'm getting with these couple of razors here, the Aristocrat Jr. and this Rocket HD, Might be a good comparison to see if it's a little more rough. So I loaded for about 60 seconds the first time I loaded up this soap, and this was a 30-second load, and I don't have tons of extra lather. I'm actually kind of scooping out every bit of it in there, but it's going to be plenty to do the job. And I didn't have, by the time I was done with a 60-second load before, I maybe had a little bit more than this, but not much more than this. And so that is a good testimony to how this is the same brush was used. And so the same brush picked up more soap as the consecutive shaves went on, because the soap had that kind of residual moisture left over from the previous load. And yeah, and I could even take the kind of scraps from what's on the brush right now if I needed to do a fourth pass. It feels good on my face. It's not a particularly creamy soap. I want to guess this is not a tallow soap. And there are better performing vegan soaps out there. And so I'm not necessarily bringing this soap to you as one to go out and buy, but it doesn't have a whole lot of airplay, and so I like to bring it out. You could look at some of the stats on this. Maybe it's got oils and essential oils and things that help you to feel good about the product, if you like the Scandinavian industry and culture, then this might be a nice thing for you to jump into. And there we go. I think I will move on now to, I think Cella was next on the list. And this vintage looking puck tub has been refilled with soap from the 1 kilogram block, and that is what this is. I don't think there's a difference, but I think some people do, and they may be smarter than me. They may have more experience than me. So we'll just enjoy it. And do I get any scent? Oh yeah, little touch of the almond, the cherry marzipan almond type scent comes through. I don't know, there's something about this little tub, I guess, and this maybe goes along with the Fitjar and the DR Harris. I mean, there's just something about some of the containers that make me just want to use the soap. So, go figure. That's just me, I guess. Now, I have been using Fitjar the last few days. This is the third time, I believe, and each time I have been using Stirling Agar because it is an oud type scent, and it has gone very well with the hint of citrus and the hint of woodiness that I do get, and it's more overpowering than the soap. It's kind of supposed to be. Now with the Havn, you are going to get more of a scent burst than I am right now. It is, even when my nose is functioning normally, I do get a light scent from the Havn. But the Agar actually is something that I do smell for a while after the shave, because it's nice and strong, and I think it goes really well with this particular soap. Yeah, so it appears that the hard puck of the Fitjar Islands doesn't really get, and this is the one from maybe 2-3 years ago. I don't know if they are going to do a reformulation, but it appears that it doesn't really get really creamy. Now, it's very serviceable. It's slick on my face, but it just doesn't give you a luxurious kind of feel between the fingers. It does feel good on your face with a good brush, but it's not going to have that top tier creaminess or a rich texture if you're into that. So it's not going to be a good match for you if that's important for you. But if you're a weirdo like me and just like it for some weird reason, then it might be just right every once in a while. All right, so we'll do the Cella next, I think, and we'll see what's next on the voting. after the Cella, because the Cella and the Fitjar were kind of tied. And I may take the etched version of the Astra blade and put it in this very same razor the next time I shave to see if the feel is different. I don't have any residual irritation that the Rocket, okay, this is the Rocket HD. The gold Rocket that I used recently did leave me with a little bit of irritation. And I guess it was just that aggressive. It was super smooth. I mean, it was really smooth, but it just had a little bit of hidden aggression in it that would build up. Now, the Aristocrat Jr. did not. It was smoother and kinder. But this also as well is smooth and kind for me. Maybe not as smooth as the Aristocrat Jr., but still very enjoyable. I think this is a great razor for a lot of guys. If you think you might like it, you probably will. I think it's going to cut hair. At the time, they wanted to make razors that would appeal to the maximum number of people. And so they didn't make a ton of super aggressive razors back, in the 30s, the 40s, 50s. The mid 50s is when these guys were coming out. And so they just didn't make a ton of super high aggression. And so just think about it. Millions of guys around the world shaving with razors like these and having good shaves. It's because they worked on their technique, or they realized that their lather needed to be slicker and better to get the right performance out of there, instead of switching to an aggressive razor. Now, of course, you can shim these guys. And can you shim these guys? I know you can shim adjustables. Yes. I think that a shim would work on this one as well. Although I'm not a shimmer. I don't almost never shim. All right. Good shave. Really happy with the shave. And the, you know what? I didn't actually use the Agar because I had to do a face rinse. But now that I've done that, I can put on the Stirling Agar Balm. Oh, you know what? I've got that Zingari Explorer, and that's kind of a scent that's along the same vein as the Havn, I think. That would probably be a good match. But man, I'm really enjoying this oud scent that the Agar brings. And applied on a fairly wet face, and it goes on and it spreads just a little, goes a long way, and it'll soak in pretty quickly and be pretty nourishing. If you have really dry skin, then you may want to use more product, the routine. So again, a quick compare of the Rocket family here. We have the Aristocrat Jr., which was the smoothest of the bunch, and it looks identical to the regular Rocket, except the one I have was gold, but there are ones that look exactly like this that are not gold. And the only difference is that it has the diamond base plate. If you look right here, that means it's a normal Rocket. It's Aristocrat Jr. if it has the flat base plate here. And so this is a smoother one. The normal Rocket did have more aggression, but it was a nice shaver. But it had a little bit more aggression to it, kind of that stealth irritation. And this guy is kind of between the two. Still very friendly, didn't give me any irritation. A little bit more blade feel than the Aristocrat Jr. But it has the diamond base plate. This may be easier to find than the Aristocrat Jr. and it may be cheaper. So there's the differences. And of course the thicker handle. And it is a little bit heavier, but I've never noticed the weight before as a negative thing, and so I only notice it now because I'm holding two different things in my hands. I don't consider this heavy at all. I do like the look of it and the thickness here of the handle, and so it is slightly different feel from the Aristocrat Jr. And so both of them are neat to have in your collection if you value that kind of thing. But if you have to choose, this guy's going to give you nice shaves, come really darn close, and still be a member of the Rocket family. And when choosing between the HD Rocket, I definitely like it better, not because of the weight or the size, but because of the smoother shave. That stealth irritation of the normal Rocket is just, it's too much for me. And this guy right here, the Rocket HD, is much more comfortable for daily shaving and just general enjoyment. And I do get a nice, close, enjoyable shave from the HD. And so for me, choosing between the Rocket and the Rocket HD is a very easy decision because of the comfort and closeness this guy brings without that irritation. Never mind the ergonomics or the aesthetics, that sort of thing. And then when you add that as in, I do kind of like the looks of this one a little better. And so that's just an extra bonus. All right, so it's been fun playing with rockets these days. Yeah, I've enjoyed that part of it. And here is the brush after we've given it a good towel stropping. And it's not a super huge knot, but man, you saw it on my face. It is, it gets the job done very nicely. It doesn't look huge, but it does feel plenty big, for me at least. I could have mounted it just a little higher, maybe gotten another couple of millimeters of bloom, but I think it seems pretty much perfect. Because it's not floppy, those nice soft tips are always staying on my skin instead of bending over too much, and so I'm just really enjoying these first few uses for sure. So very nice Silvertip premium grade. There are a couple of different grades from Golden Nib, and I think it's grade A. That's the slightly lower grade. That's not quite as soft. And so you can, if you like everything except you don't quite want those soft tips, you want them maybe with a little bit of scrub, a hint of scrub, but you like the backbone that the Silvertip offers and that kind of thing, then go for that grade A. Yeah, for sure. Save a few bucks too. Very nice. Face feels great, no irritation at all, and enjoying playing around with the rockets. And the Astra is kicking nicely. This was just the fourth use, so he's doing well. The inked Astra. We did just use, I stuck to under 20. I think I ended up, I added a little bit more water, so I think I'm looking at maybe 17 milliliters used. And so I think I figured out that this particular soap base just doesn't get creamy to a certain level as well as some other soaps do. And, it still gets the job done. Kind of like the OG Chiseled Face Tallow mix. May not compare as well to Stirling or Stirling Mutton Tallow or, some of the other ones out there, but it still gives you a nice slick shave and gets the job done. So there we go. All right. I'm going to enjoy the Agar for the next couple hours, and in the next few weeks, maybe my nose will recover and I'll be able to bring those other soaps to you, and I think that'll be fun. All right, now this is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I think that's it for today. You guys take care. Good night.